In the chaos of war, heroes can emerge from the most unexpected places. They aren't always soldiers on the front lines or generals commanding armies. Sometimes they're the people working behind the scenes whose quiet courage changes the course of history. This is the incredible story of a cook, a woman named Lena, who found herself facing a choice that would define her legacy and challenge the very authority of a powerful general. Our story takes place in the brutal winter of 1941 during the siege of Leningrad. The city was completely cut off by German forces. Food was impossibly scarce and the people were starving. Every crust of bread, every spoonful of soup was a matter of life and death. In one of the city's makeshift military hospitals, Lena was in charge of the kitchen. She wasn't a soldier. She was a cook, a motherly figure who saw the gaunt faces of the wounded soldiers and civilians every day. Lena's kitchen was her battlefield. Her weapons were pots, pans, and the meager rations she was given. She was a magician, stretching a handful of oats and a few frozen potatoes into a thin but life-saving soup for hundreds of people. She knew every soldier by name, saw the desperation in their eyes, and felt the weight of their survival on her shoulders. Her small, steamy kitchen was a sanctuary of warmth and hope in a city frozen by war and hunger. One frigid afternoon, the hospital's commander, a stern and imposing general, strode into her kitchen. He was a man accustomed to being obeyed without question. The air grew thick with tension. The general didn't come for a friendly chat. He came with an order. He announced that a special banquet was to be prepared for a visiting high command delegation. He wanted a multi-course meal, complete with meat, bread, and even a dessert. Lena stared at him, her ladle frozen in her hand. The other kitchen staff fell silent, their eyes wide with disbelief. A banquet? With what food? The general pointed to a locked pantry in the corner of the kitchen. This was the iron ration, a strategic emergency reserve meant only for the most dire of circumstances, to be used as a last resort to prevent the entire hospital from starving. It contained a small stash of canned meat, flour, and sugar. It was the hospital's final lifeline. "Use the iron ration," the general commanded, his voice cold and final. "This delegation is important. Our morale depends on showing strength." Lena looked from the general's well-fed face to the locked pantry door. Behind that door was not just food. It was the promise of another day of life for the dying men in the hospital beds. It was the difference between a child seeing another sunrise or succumbing to the gnawing hunger that plagued the city. The soldiers weren't getting banquets. They were getting watery soup, sometimes with just a few grains floating in it. The thought of using this precious reserve for a feast felt like a profound betrayal. Everyone expected Lena to simply nod and obey. She was just the cook, a civilian woman in a military hospital. Who was she to question a general? But in that moment, something inside her shifted. She thought of the young soldier who had died that morning, whispering for a piece of bread. She thought of the nurses, their own faces hollowed by hunger, who gave their tiny portions to the weakest patients. Taking a deep breath, she looked the general directly in the eye. Her voice was quiet but steady, cutting through the silence of the kitchen. "No, Comrade General!" A gasp rippled through the room. The general's face turned a deep shade of red. He was stunned into silence. No one had ever said no to him. "What did you say?" He finally roared, his voice echoing off the tiled walls. Lena didn't flinch. She stood her ground, a small woman in a stained apron, facing down a powerful military leader. "I said no," she repeated, her voice gaining strength. "That food is for the wounded. It is for the children. It is not for banquets while my soldiers are starving. You can shoot me, you can send me to a labor camp, but you will not have this food." She placed herself squarely in front of the pantry door, her arms crossed. It was a silent, powerful act of defiance. The general was furious. He threatened her, he berated her, he called her a traitor. But Lena did not move. She was no longer just a cook. She was a guardian. The other kitchen workers, inspired by her courage, slowly moved to stand behind her, forming a human wall. They were all tired, all hungry, but in that moment they were united. The standoff was intense. The general could have had her arrested or worse. But something about her unwavering conviction gave him pause. Perhaps he saw in her eyes the fierce, unyielding spirit of Leningrad itself. He saw a moral authority that his military rank could not overcome. Lena wasn't just protecting food. She was protecting the soul of the hospital, the principle that the weakest and most vulnerable should be cared for first. Utterly defeated, not by force, but by the sheer moral power of a cook, the general turned on his heel and stormed out of the kitchen. The banquet was cancelled. The iron ration remained locked, a symbol of Lena's victory. Word of what happened in the kitchen spread like wildfire through the hospital. The cook who said no to the general became a legend. For the soldiers and staff, it was a small but significant triumph. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, when a formal authority loses its moral compass, true leadership can arise from anywhere. It was a victory for humanity over hierarchy. Lena's act of courage boosted morale more than any staged banquet ever could. Lena continued to work in her kitchen, stretching her meager supplies, feeding the hungry. She never spoke of the incident, but everyone knew. They looked at her with a new level of respect and admiration. She wasn't just the woman who made the soup. She was the woman who had stood up for them all. This story teaches us a profound lesson. Courage isn't always about grand, heroic acts on a battlefield. Sometimes it's about the quiet, firm no spoken in the face of injustice. It's about having the conviction to do what is right, even when it's hard, even when you're afraid. Lena's story reminds us that one person's integrity can be a powerful force for good. Her name may not be in the official history books, but her legacy lived on in the hearts of the people she saved. She was just the cook until she became their hero. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories of hidden heroes. Let us know in the comments what you think about Lena's amazing act of defiance. See you next time.